everybody out in YouTube land around the world and around the country. I didn't get any feedback as to time frame, so I'm going to do it about an hour earlier tonight live. And I didn't get any feedback as to whether to do it live or record it. So I may do it live just for a couple of days here, and then I'll maybe go back to recording it. Tonight I'm very tired. I need to keep my voice up and pronounce my words correctly. So I'll try to do that as much as possible. Always do the captioning. That really helps. Click on the little gear thing. Click on captions, English or whatever language you speak. And then also do the click on more on the drop down. And then go to the right and there'll be transcripts. So be sure and do the transcripts. That'll really help you out a lot because the transcripts are very accurate and the captioning is very accurate also. In my experience, I don't watch a video without having captioning and transcripts both on. So that's where I'm coming from. All right, so I'm going to, like I said, I'm pretty beat, kind of a long day. So I'm going to read part or most of, or maybe all of chapter 1, section 1. So we covered the preface and a lot of some basic ideas, fundamental ideas. I have several series of 3 different playlists called something along the lines of directives for the Ozark Plateau directives. There's a third one, I think, but anyway, punch in my channel, type in my channel, and then you can go to a playlist and put in things like directives, and it should pull those up. So basically, they're ideas, not command, not my ideas, just basic ideas that are, like I said, most of them are basically timeless. Eternal truths. You should always do unto others as you would have them do unto you. To me, that's an eternal truth. It should be true of no matter where, no matter when, no matter how, no matter where you're living, no matter under what circumstance you're living, no matter what country or continent you're living on, and no matter what time frame you're living in, whether it's last decade or this next decade or 100 years from now, you should always be observing those truths. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So anyway, all right. So my opening section 1 starts out with a section called section 1, chapter 1. I'm going to say chapter 1. The first paragraph of the first heading is solutions to problems. Okay. So I'm going to read that. So much Christian, patriotic, and prophetic information tends to be truthfully informative, but also alarmist and downright frightening. Like we call fear mongering. And I'm guilty of way too much of that. Date setting, all those kinds of things. And what it does, it just cheapens the whole thing. People have heard 1,000 approaches. Jesus is going to return in 1988. Yeah, there's 88 reasons why Jesus was going to return in 1988. Nah, it didn't happen. When the rapture gets Scotty Clark, and the rapture is going to happen next year. It's going to happen. September 12th is going to happen. Sorry. This date setting is just silly. One of the first guys I talked to, he lived in Whitehall, Montana, and worked in Denver, Colorado. His family lived in Whitehall, Montana, and he worked in Denver, Colorado. They would commute back and forth. His sons and him, they'd get in their Dodge Diesel Cummins 40-foot trailer, skid loader. They did landscaping in Denver, made good money, drove back, barreled through. 2 sons, one would be driving, one would be sleeping. One person would be driving, one person would be sleeping, one person would be watching. So they just barrel through at 90 miles an hour. That's the way they lived, Everything was cash, no social security number, no license, none of that. They just worked and made a lot of good money, Anyway, my point about that is he was one of the first person I talked to in 1993 after freaking out about, the New World Order and George Herbert Sr. book and the Brady Bill and black helicopters and concentration camps and guillotines and all that stuff and cattle cars, designed to hold people, all this stuff. And just freaking out about everything. And he said, when you heard about this stuff as long as I have, it just gets boring. Fast forward it was 1993, so fast forward 7 or 8 years, and we're at a conference. It was called this Shocker, David Wegner, kind of a prophecy club type thing. And it was a shocker that my wife's best friend in Canada said, If it weren't for the fact that my daughter's here with me, I'd be laying in the middle of the aisle there in a fetal position, sobbing uncontrollably. It was so frightening to her. So anyway, we're in the bathroom and I'm standing, but my son's in the one urinal and this old boy, about 80 years old, is at the other urinal. And the little boy looks at my son and he goes, "This is quite disturbing." And you could tell he was scared, and my son goes, "When he heard it as long as I have, it just gets boring, it's boring." So he said the exact same thing that Steve Wagner had said to me. So pretty cool. All right. Well, anyway, that does. So yeah, you can do a lot of fear mongering. You can pay attention to a lot of fear mongering. I don't like that. I stand against it because, I go to a gathering at Tabernacles or a meeting or music conference or something, and get three men together and they're talking about every evil thing in the world, every bad thing the government's doing, every bad thing the enemy's doing, every bad thing the New World Order is doing, every bad thing the deep state is doing. And I'm like, why do you do that? You're glorifying the enemy. You're giving power to the whole thing. You're repeating it. You're actually energizing the whole thing. Why do that? Why not talk about what God's doing? Why not talk about what Father's doing? That's what I want to do. Anyway, so it's hard not to be frightening and downright, concerned. Be concerned, but don't be afraid. Don't be, there's a group on Yahoo groups called Preparing But Not Afraid. It was a Christian prepper group. Yeah, be preparing, but don't be afraid. Be concerned, but not worried. Don't be worried about anything. So the ugly facts of the deplorable condition which we have degenerated into as a nation and as a church, quote unquote, in quotation marks, sorry, as a church with a small c, is truly sickening and terrifying. However, I once heard Bob Spears, a preparedness leader, say that in the military, an officer should never bring a problem before his commanding officer unless he has developed at least, quote unquote, at least two workable solutions to the problem. I took that to heart. That's what I believe in. If you want to talk to me about chemtrails, tell me what you're doing about chemtrails. Tell me what you're doing about chemtrails. There's several things you can do about it. Number one, you can, buy a device or build a device, chemtrail buster, very simple to do, 5-gallon bucket of, with copper tubes in it and 6-foot tubes sticking out of that. Or you can just point your finger at it and pray about them. You could get on your knees and pray about them. Or you can just point your finger at it and speak love into the situation and they'll go away. I guarantee you. The most powerful thing in the world is love. That's what I'm trying to get across to people. So, we should have at least two workable solutions to the problem. There is no need for me to recount how deep the mire is into which we have sunk. We have sunken into deep, deep mire indeed, people. So, we've sunken into deep kamich, deep doo-doo. We're about up to our neck in it right now at this point in time. We can't move around too much because we're so deeply mired. So. What follows is a workable plan to achieve survivability for many who desire to obey the command to flee, literally, to use John Bunyan's phrase, the city of destruction. And that has a lot of weight now. Back in Bunyan's day when he wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, the book mostly from prison, it was written from prison about 1682, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be mistaken, but, Pilgrim's Progress was written from prison, no question. And what year it was, I'm not sure. But let me tell you this. The scenario in it was that he wanted to flee the city of destruction, that there was going to be coming a time of judgment upon earth. And he wanted to flee that. In the city of destruction being, hell in the future. But so he had a burden on his back and he had to get free of that burden. Well, he got free of the burden at the foot of the cross. He had to go through humble himself and go through a wicket gate. There's a lot of, it's an allegory, okay, people? It's an allegory. It's a story and it's a truth in a parable form. The whole book is like a parable. Okay, very, very powerful book. But so he used the phrase, the city of destruction. Well, boy, now we're into that 1,000, like 100 million times over. The cities in this country are evil. The town where I grew up my entire life until I moved to Kansas in 1997 was Aurora, Colorado. Okay. For a while, we lived at 1152 Akron Street for quite a few years. My two of my first two children were born there. Anna and Ian were both born there. 1,500 feet from that address is Dayton Street. and there's an apartment complex that's been taken over by Venezuelan drug cartel. They're kidnapping at random. They're doing whatever they want at random, kicking doors in the whole apartment complex. Now, the Aurora police deny this, but there will be some. It'll become more widely known. There's people taking video cameras of the videotape of this whole stuff and posting it online. So it's going to become more aware of we're going to become more aware of the situation if it continues. If it's for real, I'm going to say if it's for real. Allegedly, this is happening. I don't know for sure. Allegedly, the Hells Angels are going to go and get rid of them. Could you imagine that? A bloodbath that would be. So anyway, supposedly 100 Hells Angels were heading to Aurora, Colorado to evict them or get rid of them. So of course, the police started hitting the Hells Angels places to help them out. ATF raided a Hells Angels facility, whatever. Get rid of the good guys. In this case, the Hells Angels are good guys. It's a very bizarre situation. But anyway, point being is 1,500 feet from where we lived for quite a few years, where two of my children were born, in the house, is now a drug cartel operation. That you want to know why I moved from Aurora, Colorado? That's a good reason. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I knew it was going to get bad there, and it is bad. It's going to get worse. It's going to get far, far worse. So, all right. City of Destruction, as in the introduction to the novel Systemic Shock, and I found the book out there. I ordered it recently, but last year. There's a trilogy by a man named Dean Ing. His name was Dean. His wife's name was Gina. So in the whole phone book, he was just a D Ing L G Ing, ding-a-ling. Pretty cute. Anyway, but in that book, it's Systemic Shock. The blurb on the cover said, I almost quoted. I quoted it in my book here. I'm just going to quote it as best I can. It said, Americans knew that things were getting bad around the country and around the world. Americans knew there would be a solution. There always was. And sure enough, there was. It found 100 million Americans. It was called sudden death. What I envision is a way to avoid that for as many as will listen. Now, this is a fact. Ted Koppel. Anybody remember Ted Koppel? He wrote a book called Lights Out. I read a book called Lights Out by David Crawford, okay? Well, Ted Koppel wrote a book called Lights Out. Same title, not a novel, just about how fragile our infrastructure is as far as the power system, power grid, and saying it's going to get hit. Saying no question it's going to get hit. Now, the other book, there's a trilogy written 1 second after, 1 year after, and then The Final Day by a professor at a college, Montreal and Black Mountain, Montreal College and Black Mountain, and Swanania. Okay. My daughter lives there. It just tore me up when I started reading that book because the first opening lines was, Daddy, I've been drafted. Woman with a little 2-year-old boy. Husband was dead from fighting, and she's been drafted. They're going to draft her. They don't care. And if they try to evade the draft, they'll be arrested and put in federal prison. So very brutal book, horribly brutal book, and just so unbelievable. I mean, at least Lights Out was somewhat believable, but that book had some things in there that were just like, oh man, Black Hawk helicopter flying around, and man, just anyway. My point is this: things are getting bad. If the power grid goes down, they figure it's going to kill about 250 million Americans. Okay, from rioting, death, starvation, freezing to death, heat stroke, heat killing people in the summer. So it's going to be bad if that happens. I don't know if I'd survive. I may not. No big deal. I know where I'm going. Okay, what I envision is a way to avoid that for as many as will listen. And if we work together, that's the main thing, not just listen, but work together. I'll say over and over again, we need to work together. We need to have people helping people. We need to love each other. We need to love each other more than we love ourselves. We need to love each other as we love ourselves, Do unto others you would have them do unto you. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Everybody loves themselves. That's your primary, survival instinct. Your prime directive is to survive, But you should love your neighbor. You love your family and love your neighbors as much as you love yourself. All right, so now I went on to say this. 12 years ago, I made up a saying, which came from my assessment of the situation as I saw it. Now, what happened was in 1993. Okay, I told you I woke up. I actually had told the Lord, I want to quit. I'm going to quit. I'm tired of doing this preparedness stuff. I'm going to quit. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to get a job, a real job, and I'm going to be normal. I remember saying that to God. Poof, boy, wake up call. Stop me. A lot of people had a wake up call in 1980 and then 1993. I know several friends of mine, same exact time frame. 1980, they got a slap around wake up call. 1993, wake up call. That's when God gave him a vision or something. A friend of mine that literally had a vision. Okay, so my point is this: that I made up when I came to, I was going to quit, and get a job, get a house, buy a house, and I woke up again like, oh my gosh, it's happening. What I knew was going to happen, 13 years ago, what I saw was going to happen is happening right now. It's starting to happen. It's getting serious, Brady Bill and New World Order and everything. So, but I looked around, I woke up and I looked around and looked at things, and this is not going to end well. I knew immediately. I saw enough of the situation that I said, this is not going to end well. I foresaw the time when, it would break down into civil war, going to be, just rampant without rule of law, a lot of things like that. WROL, without rule of law, or ROL, rule of law, gone. However you want to phrase that, whatever acronyms you want to use, it's time for you to get your good bag, your get out of Dodge bag, or your I'm never coming home bag, your INCH, I'm never coming home bag, or your, good to go bag, your bug out bag. Go to your bug out location if you have one. Most people don't have a bug out location. They're just going to bug out. So not good. Anyway, I looked at the situation over and I made up a saying then, and it's still true, and it's going to get true more and more. It's going to be 10 times more true, 100 times more true, 1,000 times more true, 1,000,000 times more true. I said this, quote, a lot of people are going to die because they thought they were smart enough to think for themselves. Okay. And what I meant by that was, we need to be able to allow other people to do our thinking for us sometimes, and I did that. I'm not saying that I'm telling people that I'm smart enough to think for them, do the thinking for them. I'm a little bit further ahead on the curve than a lot of other people are. Like I've been doing preparedness since 1980, seriously. I've been buying things since 1980, stockpiling, building up resources and things that we need. And I still feel like I haven't even started, and I really haven't started. There are people who have, military people who have a much better handle on this whole thing than we do. Us candy-ass civilians, as people would, as a military person would call us, and that's very true. I know I'm a stupid, retarded civilian. Okay, I understand that. But my point is, a lot of people are going to die because they thought they were smart enough to think for themselves. Now, this is back in 2000 or so when we watched this movie, I think in Kansas, yeah. Recently, we watched the movie The Druids about Vercingetorix, the great leader in Gaul who stood up to the Romans. They rebelled against the Romans, and he led the rebellion. The people failed to heed the wisdom of his advice, so thousands were slaughtered. Thousands upon thousands of people were slaughtered. The people failed to heed the wisdom of his advice, and thousands were slaughtered. My son pointed out, Ian was my oldest son sitting there next to me, and he goes, Dad, that's what you've been saying. A lot of people die when they think they're smart enough to think for themselves. So these people thought they were smart enough to think for themselves. They had other leaders that weren't listening to him, didn't want to listen to him. Like they thought they were, good to go. So they didn't listen to him. They rebelled against him, and thousands upon thousands were dead. So now back then, that was very wise of my son to see that. He observed it. He said, "Hey, Dad, that's exactly." We watched the movie, and he said, "That's exactly what happened in the movie. Was exactly what I had said." A lot of people die when they think they're smart enough to think for themselves. That's him saying that. So often we need to subject our intellect to that of another greater or more informed mind. I deliberately did that and ended up where I am now after 4 years in Kansas, boot camp from Missouri, as my wife says. So I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to read that again. Often we need to subject our intellect to that of another greater or more informed mind. I'm saying maybe not greater, but more informed, somebody with more information. And the person that I subjected my mind to that had more information was a Green Beret. Okay, he lived on our couch through a winter. Another Vietnam vet lived on our driveway in his pickup camper. Jacked that off the pickup and went to work and came back, slept out there. Another friend slept on the couch, and he would constantly telling me, "You got to go east. You got to go east. You got to go east." So I was going to go up to the mountains. I'm from Colorado. I'm going to go up in the mountains and survive. I got my teepees. I got my military hex tents. I got my stoves. I got my hunting rifle. Yeah, how many deer are going to be alive after 2 weeks? not very many. So, I mean, buffalo, antelope, deer, elk, and even back then, I took my son hunting one year, and there were 453 leftover deer doe tags you could get for just for one area right outside of Carbondale. And so I asked my son before we done, I said, you want to, for about the license, I said, do you want to go hunting just to go hunting, or do you want to go hunting and try to kill something? I want to kill something. I said, okay, I'll get a doe tag instead of a buck tag. You know, I could have gotten a buck tag, but I got a leftover doe tag. And I brought a deer back home that year. Only deer I've ever hunted and killed. So it did happen. The weird story. I got attacked by it. It came at me flailing. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. That's bunny trail. Bunny trail. Where am I at? Okay, so yeah, the need to subject our intellect to that of another greater or more informed mind. So my plan was to go in the Rockies and survive with my tents and my teepees and all my gear and my vehicles, which would have broken down before I ever got anywhere. But I figured I thought maybe very incorrectly that I could probably keep about 100 people alive. If I had the help of getting this stuff up there, probably could have kept 100 people alive. That's what I was figuring. Now, wintertime, I don't know. We had really good winter gear. We had the best winter gear of our entire group. I quit the group because nobody else was prepared for winter. That's one of the reasons why I pulled out of the group that we were in, preparedness group. Several reasons, but that was one of them. All right, so I did that. I subjected my intellect to that of this Vietnam vet who told me, you know, if it comes down to it, they're going to control the water. There will be no water available in Colorado. You're not going to be able to grow food anywhere in Colorado because they'll control it. And sure enough, in one day they shut off 400 wells in, what was that? Not Logan, Fort Lupton, Weld County, which was the potato and onion growing county of the whole state. They shut off 400 wells at one swell swoop, in one fell swoop, shut them off. The city needed water, so they just no farmers don't need water. People in the city need water. They're the ones who are making the votes for bringing all the, sanctuary city people in, all the lowlifes in. They're the ones that are destroying the economy, so they get the water. Anyway, so my wife at the time called Kansas boot camp for Missouri. Getting used to ticks, chiggers, humidity, ice storms in January, and snowstorms in March. Those 5 things. Ticks, chiggers, humidity, ice storms, and snowstorms. So that was boot camp for Missouri. Very, observant of her. So this booklet will comprise a mere outline. That's all it is, a mere outline of a plan to help people to relocate from the cities out into the country, to begin to build an attempt to live on the land. It is intended not so much as an argument to convince believers to do so, but as a guide for those who know that we are in the last days and those who know hard times are soon to come. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. If you're already convinced, if you're wanting to get out, I want to help you. That's what this whole book is about. And that's why I feel compelled to read it again and to go over it again and to go over it in more detail and more commentary. So this booklet will comprise a mere outline of a plan to help people to relocate from the cities out into the country. If you're 20 miles out in the country, you're better off than you would in the city. If you're 50 miles, better yet. 100 miles, better yet. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, like there's a county in Missouri, okay, that is larger than the smallest state. It's about 1,200 square miles. Rhode Island is about 1,100 square miles. Texas County in Missouri, largest state, right? Largest county, is about 1,200 square miles. So figure that one out. You go live out in Texas County in the middle of nowhere, 100 miles from anybody. Pretty barren. Most counties in Missouri are mostly empty, believe it or not. A lot of land available, a lot of places available to live. And I've done the comparison. I'm not going to go into it now. I'll go into it later. But the comparing Switzerland to the Ozarks. The Ozarks are 6 to 10 times larger than Switzerland, and there's about 500 times more capability of growing food here than there is in Switzerland. Switzerland imports about 95% of its food. The Ozarks used to export food to the East Coast, to the Rockies, to the Canadian border, and to the Mexican border. Train loads of tomatoes and potatoes and wheat and corn. I mean, just entire train loads of stuff. So it could happen again. All right. Survivalist versus survivor. To begin with, we have the survivalist who's living in the city. He has his bucket of wheat, along with his book on how to live on a bucket of wheat and no electricity. There was this literally a book called How to Live on a Bucket of Wheat and No Electricity. Okay. Yeah. Let me know how that works out for you. He has a good to go pack, a get out of Dodge pack, his survival pack, his bug out bag. Now, please understand, I'm not knocking those things. That is pretty much where we were at for 20 some years, from 1980 to about 2000. Yeah, almost 2000, almost 20 years. We were accumulating a large number of things with no better plan than to head for the hills when the posterior excrement began to impact the rotating oscillator when the shit hits the fan. But you have that city person versus the farmer or rancher who has grown up on the land and lived out in the country his entire life. He has a well, he has a septic tank, he has a lagoon, he has chickens, a garden, a milk cow, perhaps some goats, maybe a greenhouse. He runs cattle. He perhaps grows corn as well as hay for his cattle. Now I ask you, what is the difference between those two insofar as surviving goes? Which one is in a better situation, a more survivable situation? Question mark. It takes many people years to understand that the survivalist is merely that. He is a survivalist. He's not a survivor. There are many survivalists leaving fingernail marks on the outside of Noah's Ark. They're bloody fingernail marks. Noah was a survivor. We need to have an ark. We need to be survivors. We need living and working in a survival area. Oh, come on. Not mere survivalist, whose last minute plan is not workable for even 1 out of 1,000 people. Okay. So we need not be a survivalist. We need to be a survivor, you know. My brother-in-law used to say, he said, Jerry, in the septic tank of life, there's sinkers and there's floaters, and I'm a floater. He said, no matter what's going to happen, I'm going to float to the surface. I'll be a survivor. It's probably true. You'll kill a lot of people to do it, but. Okay, I did that. Yeah. It'll be a lot quicker to take a sip out of a cup when I've got a cup there. So, yeah, we don't need to be a survivalist. We should not be a survivalist. And on that note, I want to make a comment that people say they're a Christian survivalist, and that is an oxymoron. It's complete diametrically opposed. Two terms are diametrically opposed. Christian survivalist. Okay, if you're a Christian, you follow the gospel, right? The gospel says to treat others better than yourself. You know, true love is this: a man lays down his life for a friend. You know, treat others better than yourself. To you know, love one another more than you love yourself, or as much as you love yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay, that's the gospel. That's the golden rule. Now, if you're saying I'm going to kill you, and I know there are a friend of mine told me that in his church that he attends sometimes, there are men who have said that when his shit hits the fan, they're going to kill their neighbor, their Christian friend, and take their gear. That is not survivalism. If you do that, once you commit murder, you're dead. You're morally dead, and you're going to be killed by the Most High. You have ended your own life on earth, as far as I'm concerned. You're worth nothing to the kingdom and worth nothing to Almighty God. So, all right. So, survivalist, or the bloody fingernail mark leaving people on the outside of Noah's Ark. Don't be a survivalist. What is true wealth? Okay, next you transition from the concept or attitude of us for and no more versus that of the beginning to look at the ability to keep other people alive. I'm going to stop here pretty quick because that's about 30 minutes. That's about enough. My voice is going to go, and there's a lot more left to this section, chapter, whatever we're going to call it. Yeah, more than I want to even try to get across tonight. I'm going to cut it off here. See if anybody's on. Okay, we got Hell's Angels, not good guys. Yeah. Hi, Deborah. How you doing? Katie Ann. Hey. Hello. Rick, how you doing? Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. It was kind of, I don't know if it was the whole Hell's Angel thing going to Aurora was a publicity stunt, and it was, nobody ever proved it. They would show pictures of long line of Hell's Angels going down the highway. They didn't say what state they were coming from, if they're within 50 miles. They said 100 of them were headed to Aurora, Colorado to take care of the situation. Well, that's just, as far as I'm concerned, just bogus information that was never proven. I haven't heard anything more about it. I did a playlist on it, but there were a lot of videos on the whole thing, but I doubt that's going to happen. And if it did, I don't know I would know who would put my money on if I was a betting person. Because you figure the guys that come from a third world country that have the backing of multi-billionaires like GS would have laws, rockets, and all kinds of heavy machinery, heavy equipment, heavy weaponry if they wanted it. They got the money to buy it with. They got the contacts to buy it from. So, well, U.S. military, the old Oliver North, gun running down to what's called Barry Seals, running guns down to drugs and bringing drugs back into America. Bill Clinton and all, George Bush. Anyway, so that's all just alleged stuff, but I would look into some of it if you really need to know the truth. Yeah, they got nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and they won't be arrested. They'll just be, whatever. I'm not dealing with it. I just mentioned that. I just brought it up because I lived there. I actually took the Google Earth and I went from where we lived to that apartment complex that they supposedly allegedly have taken over, 1,500 feet. That's a little bit too close for comfort for me. I'm glad we don't live there. Oh my gosh, I'm glad we don't live there still. So my kids give me a hard time, but hey, I had vision and foresight to get my kids my family out of Colorado. I saw Colorado as a, no question, New World Order territory, New World Order playground. The whole thing could be shut down virtually overnight from Lyman, Colorado. It's like a wagon wheel going railroad to that town and highway going out 360 degrees from there. They could drop a massive amount of equipment in virtually overnight. In fact, one time I was out driving with that friend that I mentioned earlier, Vietnam vet, right? We're driving and he goes, pull over. There's a straight stretch of highway going toward Parker, I think is where we're going. He said, pull over. And I immediately pulled over. He was just having chills going up down his spine. He said, you could land a C-130 here. That's what this is for. This is for landing a C-130 right on the highway, which was true every 5 miles, according to back when Roosevelt put the highway system in. What was that? Workman, whatever. The way to employ people, the government paid men to do work, but whatever it was called, the Workman something program, WMP. Anyway, point is that they had every 5 miles there was supposed to be a place to land aircraft. That's probably true. Every 5 miles there was a straight stretch of highway. They demanded there was a straight stretch of highway to land a DC-9 or C-130 or a C-17 or something on. And he said, yeah, you could land a C-130 in a stretch of highway. He was just freaking out. He was like wide-eyed, just shaking, because he just knew. One time we're standing out in front of the school we lived at in Kansas, and he said, you hear that? What? How the heck do you hear that? He goes, I didn't hear it. I felt it in my bones. It was artillery from Fort Riley, Kansas, about 200 miles away. He could hear it. He could feel it. I could hear it once he pointed out to me. I was, yeah, what the heck is that? Like boom, boom, a real faint boom, He said, that's artillery at Fort Riley. They're practicing. So pretty cool. Civilian Conservation Corps. Yeah, there you go. Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna call it good here tonight. So basically, I just want to get some ideas across, and hopefully, people out there will listen to it. And I also want to be encouraging. Don't worry about things. There is a plan. There's a really big plan, and if I've seen much as I've seen, there's a bit. The plan's way bigger than me. That what I've got going is nothing. Nothing. Just this book is just a drop in the Pacific Ocean. But I'm not saying anything about myself or anything I've done, because I've done nothing, virtually nothing. But what I want to point out is that God has a plan, and if you're part of that plan, if He's given you a dream or a vision or a job to do, work toward that. Just pick up whatever it is. What's in your hand? What's in your hand, Moses? Oh, a stick. We'll throw it down. Oh, suddenly it's a serpent. I'll pick it up. Why? Not the staff again. So we'll get you out of Egypt. Just do what I tell you to do. Speak what I tell you to speak, and shut up when I tell you to shut up. And if I tell you to hit the rock, hit the rock. Hit it once, not twice. Do what I tell you to do. So I want to encourage you to do what you've been given to do. If you got just a little, if He's given you a little small vision, do it. You might be the butterfly wing, butterfly flapping its wings on the side of the country, the side of the world. That may make a massive difference. Maybe create a hurricane or a tornado on the other side of the world. So do that. If he's giving you something to do it. And don't be afraid. Just do it. God does not work normally. He does not work normally. Okay. If you're not aware of that, you need to become aware of that. Hey Gideon, I want you to deliver my people from the Israelites, from the Ishmaelites, no, from the Midianites. Yeah. Where do you find Gideon? He's down in the threshing floor, threshing wheat, because he's afraid of he's hiding out, down in the cave or down in the pit, threshing wheat. Kind of hard to thresh wheat when you're not, then you got the wind blowing. Anyway, he finds him hiding out, tells him he's going to do something. He says, come on, get up here. Gives a call for a bunch of people, 10,000 people show up. He goes, no, that's too many. Get rid of a bunch of them. Anybody that's scared, leave. There's still 10,000. No, that's still too many. I only want 300. So have the 10,000 go down to the river and drink. And those that would lift the water from the mountain, lap water like a dog, there was only 300 men that did that. So that's 300 people. Okay, that's enough. That's all I need. So I don't want people taking glory. I don't want people taking credit for what I'm about to do. I'm going to do this. My name's going to be glorified. I don't need anybody else taking the credit for it. Like me in my book, no, I got nothing to do with it. The Father gave me an idea. He's given me a huge insight as to what's going on. I've been seeing this unfolding for years. I know a lot of really, really intelligent people, but they don't have a clue as to what I see. The guy that founded the Well-Fed Neighbor Alliance, he was talking about 17 counties. I said, no, Galen, there's more like 40, 60. There's actually 60 counties involved, not 17. So, some of the most brilliant people I know don't have an idea, don't begin to grasp what I see happening, what is going to happen. And there's no question it's going to happen. That's the other thing. I'm becoming more and more confident of, what the Father's shown me. So I believe in the message that He's given me. I believe in myself in the sense that I know that He has spoken to me. I know that He's given me an idea, and I know that it's going to happen. No question. So yeah, I'm becoming more and more confident in that. And I just want to encourage people to just step forward, step out, do what you give them to do. If he tells you to speak, speak. If he tells you to shut up, shut up. If he tells you to go build a house underground, go build a house underground. At least start doing it, learn how to do it. So anyway, that's about it. I'm going to call it good. Yeah. My back hurts too. Oh, man. Got to figure something out what to do about that. All right. Anyway, thank you. Say goodbye to everybody. I like to do that. Gadian, good night. Reek, good night. Deborah, good night. Yara, good night. Anybody else? No, I don't think so. I'm going to take a screenshot that. I can remember. See, when it uploads, all your comments are gone. I can't see them. So. Now I got them. All right. So blessings on everyone. Yeah. Let me know any ideas on the regular comment section. Give me some feedback. Again, on the time frame, is 7 o'clock good? Okay. Is 8 o'clock good? Should I keep doing live or just can live and just go back to doing I like doing recording because I can record it, listen to it, and then take notes, and then do it a second time, and it'll be a lot better. Like the last time I did that, I done 2 previous videos, like about a 4-minute video that got cut off, and then about an 18-minute video. And I listened to those, and then that first one I did a recording of was that was like a 3rd time of practice. I had 2 practices in before that. So, all right, well, goodbye. God bless everybody. Bye bye.